Ukraine waited for Russia's 6:40 a.m. attack, then triggered a perfect trap. At dawn, July 27, 2025, the morning silence over Donetsk shattered at 6:40 a.m. when Russia launched what it believed would be a decisive armored assault. From a captured Ukrainian base deep inside occupied territory, an enormous column surged forward. 50 tanks, 30 armored vehicles, and 70 suicide drones, with more than 700 infantry marching behind. It was Moscow's most ambitious strike in months, a gamble worth over $350 million, intended to rip open Ukraine's front line before autumn rains slowed the war. But what the Kremlin didn't know was that Ukraine had been waiting, patient, silent, preparing the ground for weeks. What Russia thought would be its breakthrough would collapse in just 85 minutes. This wasn't just another battle. It was a masterclass in deception, patience, and precision. The trap. Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized Brigade had transformed 3 square miles of farmland into a killing ground. Beneath the crops and dirt roads lay 4,200 anti-tank mines, arranged not in random lines but in carefully staggered formations, designed to delay, confuse, and destroy. Narrow, safe lanes were left open on purpose, funnels leading directly into kill zones. But the plan almost collapsed before it began. Just before dawn, a Ukrainian supply truck misread its coordinates and nearly drove straight into the minefield. From above, a drone operator spotted the mistake and radioed a warning. The truck screeched to a halt barely 6 feet from disaster. Success or failure balanced on a knife's edge. At 6:47 a.m., the Russian spearhead entered the trap. Within 4 minutes, 17 tanks erupted in fireballs. Steel turrets blasted skyward like volcanic debris. The column convulsed in panic. Drivers swerved for the safe lanes, only to trigger hidden sensor-activated mines. Explosions rippled across the field. Engines burned. Vehicles buckled. What followed was more than destruction. It was psychological warfare. The counterattack. The ground shook as the minefield erupted, steel and fire ripping through the Russian advance. Above the chaos, Ukrainian UAVs circled like silent predators, streaming real-time targeting data to field commanders. At 7:15 a.m., the second stage of the ambush began. From concealed ridgelines west of the battlefield, the 12th Armored Assault Battalion surged forward. 32 T-84 Oplot tanks growled to life, rolling out of camouflage netting alongside self-propelled artillery and mobile air defense systems. What had seemed to Russia like open farmland suddenly came alive with steel. The disoriented Russian column now found itself trapped between erupting earth and advancing Ukrainian armor. Within 90 seconds, another 9 Russian tanks were obliterated, their frames reduced to glowing husks. Commanders tried to rally the survivors, but Ukrainian gunners had already zeroed in. Shells rained with surgical accuracy, turning regrouping efforts into death traps. Overhead, Moscow's suicide drones dove in a desperate attempt to swing the battle. Black silhouettes streaked toward the advancing Oplots. But Ukraine had anticipated this. Mounted on armored vehicles, Shkval 6 rotary cannons roared, spitting 4,000 rounds per minute into the sky. In a thunderous display, drones exploded mid-air one after another, a mechanical storm shredding them before they could strike. In under 4 minutes, 47 UAVs were torn from the sky. The few survivors spiraled out of control, their signals scrambled by Ukrainian electronic warfare jammers. What Russia believed would be its aerial advantage turned into a sky littered with burning wreckage. The infantry strike. By 7:35 a.m., Russia's grand offensive was unraveling. That's when Ukraine delivered the final blow. From trenches, farmhouses, and tree lines, 850 Ukrainian infantrymen rose in unison. Moving in disciplined fire teams, they unleashed a storm of RPGs, sniper fire, and precision-guided strikes aimed directly at command vehicles and armored troop carriers. An ammunition truck ignited under a rocket strike, detonating in a colossal fireball that lit the sky across the battlefield. The shockwave rattled windows miles away, a beacon of Russian failure. Meanwhile, Ukrainian snipers equipped with thermal optics calmly picked off squad leaders one by one, leaving frontline units dazed and directionless. Within just 6 minutes, over 110 Russian soldiers were killed or incapacitated. Those who attempted to flee were funneled into Ukrainian scout units who had flanked the battlefield hours earlier, cutting off every possible escape. Panic spiraled into collapse. Amid the wreckage of a smoldering command vehicle, Ukrainian troops discovered a wounded officer. A biometric scan confirmed the identity. Colonel Viktor Semyonovich, commander of Russia's 42nd Armored Regiment. He was captured alive, along with encrypted data drives and combat orders. For Ukraine's intelligence community, His seizure was hailed as the most valuable battlefield capture since 2023. The collapse. By 8:05 a.m., less than 90 minutes after the assault began, the Russian offensive had completely disintegrated. What Moscow had billed as a decisive push had turned into a catastrophe. Ukrainian defenses, honed by months of intelligence and preparation, had destroyed 42 armored vehicles in rapid succession. More than 200 Russian soldiers were neutralized, and most humiliating of all, a regimental commander and his intelligence cache were in Ukrainian hands. Instead of a breakthrough, Russia had suffered one of its darkest defeats in recent memory. The battlefield itself told the story more vividly than any official statement. Satellite imagery and drone footage revealed rows of burned-out T-90s, scorched armored carriers, and twisted wreckage scattered across mine-laced terrain. Survivors abandoned their vehicles, fleeing in ragged formations across open fields. The once feared armored columns, designed to symbolize Moscow's power, now lay in ruins, silent under columns of smoke. For Ukraine, this victory resonated far beyond the battlefield. It was not just a tactical triumph, but a psychological and strategic turning point. The myth of Russia's armored invincibility, built on decades of military posturing, had been shattered in a single morning. The message was undeniable. Moscow's war machine was not unstoppable. With patience, preparation, and precision, it could be broken. For Ukraine and its allies, the collapse was more than a battlefield win. It was proof that resilience could outmatch numbers, and precision could outfight brute force. The message. In Washington, retired U.S. generals immediately hailed the ambush as a masterclass in modern warfare, an operation defined not by brute force, but by patience, timing, and discipline. Unlike traditional tactics that relied on endless missile barrages or overwhelming numbers, Ukraine had allowed the Russian column to advance, to stretch itself thin, and then methodically dismantled it through a layered, precision defense. Every action was intentional. Every strike was selected for maximum effect. What struck military observers most was not simply Ukraine's firepower, but its restraint. The willingness to hold back, to wait for the exact moment when the enemy was most vulnerable, demonstrated something deeper. That true strength in war lies not only in weapons, but in the ability to think, to anticipate, and to strike with surgical precision. Even amid the destruction, a human element remained. On the battlefield, Ukrainian combat medics treated wounded and captured Russian soldiers, binding their injuries and carrying them off the field. It was a stark reminder that beyond the strategy and steel, this war is fought by human beings. Fathers, sons, neighbors, drawn into battles they never asked for. This was more than the annihilation of a Russian armored column. It was a message to the world. Resilience, intelligence, and controlled power can outweigh sheer brute force. For Ukraine, it was not only a battlefield success, but also proof that modern warfare is being rewritten, not by numbers, but by mastery. The morning of July 27, 2025, will be remembered as one of Russia's costliest failures and one of Ukraine's most brilliant defensive victories. In just 85 minutes, a $350 million assault force was reduced to wreckage, and a regimental commander, along with his intelligence cache, was taken prisoner. But the larger question remains. Was this the turning point in the Donetsk campaign, or just another chapter in a much longer war? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dive analyses into the battles that are shaping our world today.